All right, so here is the first lecture to do with yin and yang theory. I divided the slideshow into two sections to make them a little shorter and easier to watch, hopefully. This stuff is really, really, really important. I hope you picked that up from me the other night in class. It is absolutely fundamental to understanding Chinese medicine to be in control of the theory of yin and yang. So, I really, really, really like the way The Web That Has No Weaver approaches yin and yang. It's very logical. It sort of breaks it down into nice bite-sized chunks. Um, it's a little less foo-foo and wishy-washy than Between Heaven and Earth. So we're going to start with The Web That Has No Weaver. It's really important, as I said. I think the most important thing to come out of the concept, or one of the most important things to come out of the concept of yin and yang, particularly as it stands in traditional Chinese medicine, and not just Taoist thinking, and not just art, not just culture, but Chinese medicine specifically, is that you can never understand any one part of a whole being or a whole concept or a whole universe unless you look at that part as it relates to the entire whole. You can't just isolate it out. And that's very different than Western medicine, which is always seeking to use that reductionist approach and look at just one part of a whole as if the whole doesn't matter. So yin and yang, you heard me yap about this the other night in class. I get all bent out of shape about people assigning mystical connotations to it and talking about things being Zen-like when they see the yin and yang symbol. That's just not what it is. Page 7 in The Web That Has No Weaver says it better than I could ever possibly say it, and that is that yin and yang are convenient labels used to describe how things function in relation to each other and in relation to the universe. They explain the continuous process of natural change. Nothing is fixed in time and space, and everything is part of the whole or the Tao. So, yin and yang represent the idea of polar opposites, sort of flip sides of the same coin, I guess you could say. And they actually mean quite opposite things. So yin, the actual Chinese character for yin, actually originally was used to represent the idea of the shady side of the slope. So it's cooler, it's restful, you sleep at night. It might be the decay of fall and decline of winter. It's interior, dark, downward, inward. Satiation means fullness, tranquility, quiescence, or something that's quiet and soft and gentle. In the body, yin is feminine. So women, it's not a value judgment. It's just that women tend to be smaller and less strong than men. They're sort of less than in that regard. The left side of the body is yin. Lots of people are left-handed, and of course, for them individually, the left side would be yang, but by far more people are right-handed, so right is yang and left side is yin. The front of the body is yin because it's soft, and the interior body, the deeper organs, are yin as compared to the surface of the body, the skin, the hair, the nails would be considered more yang. So to sort of summarize all of that, the idea of yin is things or characteristics that are less than, not in value, but just in characteristic. Quite opposite to yin, the character for yang meant the sunny side of the slope, where there's lots of light and growth and activity, and the birds are flying, and the trees are growing, and the flowers are blooming. It's about movement. It's about moving out into the world, upward. It's about increase and growth and learning. To learn is a very yang activity. You're increasing mind chi, brain chi when you're learning. Predictably, the right side of the body is considered yang, the back is considered yang, the surfaces of the body as opposed to the interior organs, and then yang is also considered masculine. So to sum that up, to say that to use the descriptor yang is to say that is to describe something as more than. So again, I can't emphasize this enough. These are labels. They're not judgments. They're just labels that describe relationships. They describe the way things change, the relationships between events, activities, characteristics, items, descriptors, hot and cold, light and dark. They're not value judgments. They're just labels that describe relationships. So there are 5 principles of yin and yang. These are pretty clearly delineated. This is right out of The Web That Has No Weaver. And this is pretty standard material. You would see this in a lot of different books. I would say Between Heaven and Earth is maybe the outlier on this. It talks about the principles, but it doesn't really lay them out in a friendly format. So all things have 2 facets, or 2 aspects, a yin aspect and a yang aspect. Any yin or yang aspect can be further subdivided into yin and yang, and it can go on forever. Every word that you can think of for hot and cold could be considered yin and yang. So hot and cold is yin and yang, but cold and freezing would be yang and yin. Cold is more than freezing, so cold is yang, and freezing would be yin. Yin and yang mutually create each other. You can't understand the concept of cold unless you understand the concept of hot. You can't really understand tall if you don't understand short. You can't understand beauty unless you understand ugliness. Light and dark, fast and slow, everything is really defined by its opposite. Yin and yang control each other, which is to say that within any one whole, if you have 2 halves, half yin, half yang, everything's balanced, everything's great, but maybe there's a little less yin and a little more yang, so yang is controlling yin, and possibly vice versa. Yin can absolutely control yang. And then the last one, yin and yang transform into each other. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. So a really nice, easy, simple way to sum up the theory of yin and yang is to simply say that everything changes. The theory of yin and yang states that everything changes. Okay, so that's it for the first little bit of this lecture. We're going to move on to the second part and look at each of the principles, 5 principles of yin and yang theory in greater detail.